Why is it important to understand your identity? Hi, I'm Beth Strathman. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, make sure you subscribe and click on the bell to get notifications of every time I upload a new video. So we're talking about the importance of your identity and why is that so important? Well, here's the thing. Many of us have an identity that's a mishmash of things that are natural, innate to us, and things that we have learned or put on ourselves over time. And what causes us stress and to be unhappy a lot of the times is the stuff that isn't really ours, that we took on from outside ourselves, from our family, from our society. We tried to fit into a mold, and that just isn't us, and it causes a lot of stress. We're not aware of it. We're not aware that that's where the stress is coming from. We're not even aware that we've molded ourselves to other people's expectations. But the whole game of life, it seems to me, is that you want to become as authentic as you can be. And understanding your identity and where all the pieces could have come from helps you to understand what you want to keep and what you want to let go of. So let's talk about identity a little bit. So what makes up your identity? Well, your identity is basically how you see yourself. And it's also kind of mixed in with that, how other people see you. So depending on the degree to which you pay attention to what other people think and how they respond to you, you're constantly kind of morphing yourself in different situations to fit in. Many people do anyway, not everyone does, but a lot of people do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But your identity then is made up of innate behaviors and an innate temperament maybe that you had that has been with you since the moment you were born. Plus, it's behaviors and the beliefs that go along with those behaviors that you acquired throughout your life, particularly in infancy and childhood, during a time when your brain wasn't fully developed, so you adapted to the world to stay attached to your caregivers so that you could survive. And so you adapted certain behaviors and you created certain stories in your head about why things were happening the way they were happening, with you at the center of those stories, to kind of help you stay attached, like I said, to your caregivers. So then, thus my comment earlier that you took on what you thought were the expectations of your parents, your caregivers, so that you could stay alive. You needed them, you relied on them to stay alive. Also, as we get older, we of course are subject to a wider community and a wider group of people, even society at large, that we watch on media, social media, television, movies, whatever. And we get messages from that society that we live in that tells us that, oh, buy this and you'll be successful. And this is what success is. And women should look this way and men should look that way and whatever else, right? So we get a lot of messages, and if we take those on, because again, we're trying to fit into the group, just like we were trying to fit into our families as children, then we take on behaviors and beliefs about ourselves that may not have been who we really are. We're just trying to fit in. So our identity is made up of this whole amalgam of all of these messages, plus who we really are at bottom. And for much of our lives, that identity probably serves you well. It helps you go to school and get the grades that you need to get and get a job, get out in the world and, live whatever kind of life that we live here on earth, right? But it seems to me at some time usually around middle age, I'll say when people get into their 40s, 50s, that they've gone through, they've done the whole, I've been out here in the world and I've been making it for myself. I've been making a good living or whatever. I've been making some kind of living, but there's something missing. And I might feel empty inside, or I feel like there's something more I should be doing. Some people call this a midlife crisis. Sometimes it's just being introspective. And maybe you do go through some kind of a change about midlife. Maybe you've raised the kids and for whatever reason, you and your husband now, or you and your spouse end up getting divorced because you realize that you grew apart. Something like that, or an illness can occur. And it can make you question just who you really are. And that's when this idea of identity becomes really critical for you to figure out. Because unless and until you feel really comfortable in your skin and that you are on the right track in life, you're going to really feel not at ease in your own skin, at least not completely. You also might find that as you develop in your career, for example, I work a lot with people in business. As people get into their 40s and into their 50s, they're usually progressing in their organizations, in their work, and they're promoted into, let's say, supervisory positions. And that's when they start noticing that what worked for them, the way they showed up before when they were working on their own, maybe in a team, but they weren't leading the team. Once they are in charge and they have to deal with all these different personalities and get the best work they can out of these personalities, they realize that what used to work for them before when they were a sole contributor doesn't work for them now that they're in a supervisory position, and they have to reassess, how they're showing up. So the importance of understanding your identity is that you can start to really look, you can do certain kinds of reflection and exercises to really look at how you're showing up, good and bad, because we all have positive and negative traits. We are sometimes lovely people to be around, and at other times, we're very emotionally reactive and we're not very delightful to be around. And so we have to look at those things and figure out where all that's coming from. And what I've found is that when you look underneath most of the reactivity that we get, and when I say reactivity, I mean like negative emotions that we express, like anger, frustration, disappointment, sadness, disgust, all of those things. When we express those, that shows us where the difference is, how big a difference there is between how we're showing up and who we are really underneath. That there's a bigger disconnection. The more negative the emotion is, the more intense that negative emotion is, there's a bigger discrepancy between how we're showing up and who we really are underneath. You got to figure out why the discrepancy. So a lot of times when I'm working with people or I teach webinars on looking at our identities, we'll look at instruments like using the Enneagram to look at your personality type. We'll also look at doing exercises to discover and uncover your shadow qualities, that are qualities that you've denied that you even have them, so you pretend that you don't, but other people sure see them. We look at your attachment style. So when you were a little baby, the way you're showing up today, what does that indicate about how well you attach to either one or both of your caregivers, parents? And we also look at your origin story. So what is the story of your early life that could account for how you're showing up today? What influences were there back when you were tiny, when you were a little kid, that you can see now that that's had a great impact on you, even in your relationships today? So that's why That's what you can do once you decide that you're going to look at your identity as an important part of how you're showing up and how you want now and how you want to show up in the future. The concept of your identity, who you are, is going to evolve throughout your life. But when you find that you consciously choose to look at it so that you can improve how you're showing up and improve it not only for the people around you, but to improve it for yourself, to create a little more peace and confidence in yourself, so that you don't feel a disconnect or irritation about things that are going on in your life. You feel more at peace with yourself because you're really questioning and getting rid of the stuff that doesn't really belong to you. It's stuff that belonged to your family. It's stuff that belongs to society, and it's really not you. And you just really reconnect with really who you want to be, who you really are, and how you want to show up. The more you can show up authentically, without all of the overlays of behaviors, beliefs, and expectations that came from outside of you that you don't really buy into, as far as you can go with really questioning those and letting go of at least some of them, the ones that really impact you negatively, the better off you're going to be and the better able you are to show up, like I said, feeling more at ease and more confident in who you are and what you want to do in life. So that's why understanding your identity is so important. Thanks for watching.